Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Welcome to Accelerated Health Radio and TV. I'm your host, Sarah Banta. I'm a health coach, natural supplement expert, and a busy mom of three. Today, my guest will be talking about DNA and how it affects your health and how to navigate your lifestyle and diet to optimize your genes, whether it's overcoming anxiety and depression, losing weight, or detoxing your body in the proper way, and even increasing your level of frequency in life. You need that strong physical foundation of health in order to gain the willpower to make the bigger changes in your life. If you're new to following me, I specialize in helping you get there. You can find my health articles, my cutting edge natural supplements, devices, and protocols at sarahbantahealth.com. My company is the sponsor of the show, so as you support my website, I'm able to bring you more cutting edge content and guests to the show. Today, we're going to be optimizing your genetic code. But first, I want to talk about some tools that you can use to maximize the genes and making it easier to reverse hormonal decline, improve energy, and yes, reverse aging. The goal is to reverse the insulin resistance, reduce toxicity, improve mitochondrial health, and increase that energy at the cellular level. All of these things are tied to reverse aging and eliminating the chronic disease that you have. First is accelerated keto. You do not have to be on a high-fat diet, and this is something important as we're going to talk about your genes, and maybe you're not good at burning fat, but you do need to be on somewhat of a low-carb diet to use the accelerated keto. This flips you into fat-burning mode within 30 minutes. So what does that do? Your body taps into its own fat stores for energy right away. You feel great immediately, mentally and physically, and you feel like, okay, now I can do this. I'm not even craving the carbs and the sugar that I'm not supposed to have. And accelerated keto, when you're combining it with intermittent fasting and that low carb diet, the ATP production increases significantly in the mitochondria and energy increases. Furthermore, there are additional ingredients in the accelerated keto that break down the saturated fats into unsaturated fats. And as we're going to learn, I'm someone that has a little bit of trouble with those saturated fats. So this is key for me. These unsaturated fats are easier for the body to utilize and easier for the body to convert into ketones. So you have a second source of ketones. When you're fasting, the body fat's more readily available to burn for energy, and that's going to trigger that autophagy at a higher level. And autophagy is that cleanup mechanism in your body, the detoxing, the reducing the inflammation. And because of this property, accelerated keto is able to defat the liver as well. And non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is the fastest growing disease in the United States. So this is really important. The more that your liver is defatted and unclogged, the easier it is for the liver to function in all areas, including breaking down the fat molecules into usable energy, optimizing your natural detoxification pathways, and increasing that mitochondrial biogenesis. Also, the liver is where the thyroid hormone converts from inactive to active, T4 to T3. So if your liver is clogged up, your thyroid hormones aren't going to work, and you're going to have a slow metabolism, gain that weight, and your mitochondria is going to suffer. Also, accelerated keto has something called HMB, which prevents muscle wasting. And as you get into your 40s, 50s, and 60s, you have a hard time keeping that expensive muscle. So it's really important to maintain it and have your body go straight to the fat to burn, not burn your muscle. And when you have more healthy muscle, you have more mitochondria with more ATP, and muscle is connected to longevity. There are two other ingredients in the accelerated keto that actually turn up the fire, the digestion, and the increase the ketosis and the ketone production in the body. Also helps detoxify the body and the liver. Next is the acceleradine. Iodine is needed in all 100 trillion cells of your body, not just your thyroid. And this acceleradine helps increase the ATP by 18 times. That is true cellular energy. So you've got the ATP increasing from intermittent fasting, from the accelerated keto, and now from the acceleradine. When you put these together, the number's exponential. Iodine is needed for performance, wound healing, fat burning, and healthy apoptosis, which is the destruction of disease cells, the cells that are affected by the mRNA and spiked protein, and also cancer cells. Most everybody has suboptimal thyroid from the spiked protein. In the last 2 years, Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism has skyrocketed. And acceleradine helps reverse that damage done to the DNA by that mRNA and the spike protein. Also, with ATP increasing, energy and fat oxidation increase, and it helps improve metabolism and your energy by supplying the necessary iodine for thyroid hormones. It is the only monoatomic iodine that feeds the cells directly without having to be broken down like other iodine. I apologize for the phone in the background. Most of the other iodines have toxic iodine or toxic ingredients in them, and they only have about 10 to 20% absorption. Acceleradine is further enhanced with scalar frequencies to detox the cells from heavy metals, graphene oxide, and radiation, and no other iodine supplement does this. You add in the accelerated ancient salt, and we're going to be talking about salt because some of you, including me, have a hard time with salt, right? But accelerated ancient salt is 62 minerals. It is not just sodium. It's essential to have emulsifying salt and minerals, not only to stimulate digestion, but to hydrate the cells when you're fasting and on a low-carb diet. It has a strongly negatively charged pull that pulls out the positively charged toxins, parasites, and undigested fats. It's also enhanced with scalar technology to further enhance its frequency and help reorganize the DNA. But just by putting it on your tongue, if you're nauseous or if you're having a hard time digesting your fats, a lot of people from COVID or the spike protein are noticing that they're having a hard time break down the fats and the proteins. The accelerated salt, just by putting it on your food or on your tongue, is going to help with the nausea, help digest the fats, and rehydrate the cells at the cellular level and increase the detoxification from radiation and heavy metals. And of course, it tastes amazing. Next, I'm so excited. It's finally here, accelerated thyroid. And just like I mentioned, hypothyroidism is skyrocketing. Accelerated thyroid is a selfish supplement. I have spent thousands of dollars on individual ingredients to support my thyroid, and this is why we created the formula. It includes 2 natural thyroid formulas that synergize their effectiveness together, as well as saving you money, because I would buy multiple ingredients to get this effect. Then we took the quality of the ingredients to a much higher level. And we added additional ingredients to enhance not just the thyroid health, but overall physical and mental health. And then on top of that, it is scalar enhanced. Accelerated thyroid has been energetically enhanced with our proprietary scalar field technology. And why is this important? We have embedded frequencies to enhance the general health of the thyroid, to neutralize toxins found in the thyroid, such as chlorine, fluoride, mercury, and other metals, and neutralized radiation and nuclear fallout. This is so important in today's age. And my hope is that you'll lose the weight that won't budge, give you that energy, and bring your hair back and boost your immunity, and possibly get you off your thyroid medication, of course, with the guidance of your doctor. And coming soon with the new year is the Cognoblast. This is a cutting-edge natural brain enhancement product that increases mental focus, energy, and memory. And why is it different than taking an ADHD drug or some of the medications? It is not only giving you short-term effects, but long term. And we're going to find out that I have one of those genes that puts me in a really risky camp for Alzheimer's. So this supplement is going to be a game changer for me. It is one of the first supplements in the world to combine traditional herbs known to enhance the brain function with smart nutraceuticals into a completely powerful formula that you can actually feel working like within 30 minutes. Enhances cognition, focus, mood, increases ATP, enhances memory and learning and your learning speed, and increases lifespan, prevents Alzheimer's and dementia, neutralizes the damaging free radicals, supports the liver, reduces inflammation, improves circulation. It goes on and on and on. Super excited about this. I give more tips and tools through my free group coaching. You can join with the link below on Telegram or email me through the website, sarahbantahealth.com. The difference between me and other group coaching is I provide the most cutting edge enhanced supplements that work synergistically with each other, and your body doesn't experience those flu-like symptoms. You do feel great day one. Leave a comment below if you're interested, or check it out on the website. Now to the good stuff. Dr. Lois Nahirney is the president and CEO of dnaPower. She is revolutionizing preventative healthcare by empowering people to make smarter diet, fitness, and health decisions based on their unique genetic makeup. Welcome, Lois. How are you today?
I'm just fantastic. Thanks so much, Sarah. And I have to say, I've become a client of yours and I absolutely love your products. You have put so much thought into them, and really, they're some of the best quality products that I've seen.
Well, thank you. And I'm super excited to go through this because this is just cementing my devotion to my supplements, to the right diet, to the right exercise, sleep, all of these things that we're going to go through today. When I went over the report with you yesterday quickly, I went to bed last night going, okay, I have a new, energy towards making sure I'm taking care of my health. Because on this back half of life, you can't get away with what you got away with in your early teens and 20s. And a lot of things are making sense to my health issues in the past as well. So we'll get into those. But I am so excited. So all of you, we're going to go through my results. But Lois, first, can you tell people what your company does and what this testing kit did and how it follows through?
Well, what we do is we take a look at about 70 different areas genetically in your body that can help provide insight to the roadmap for your health. So we all know there's no one size fits all diet. There's no one size fits all exercise program. What we do is we try to show you in red and green, which you'll see in the reports, the roadmap and the steps of of how your body is set up and where you should go. And so what is so cool about this is that it's so hard to do everything right. And you're amazing because you really have looked at health from front to back, but so many people are just saying, I'm not doing great. How do I fix everything? And so what is there that I can do? And so the DNA gives you your roadmap to be able to do that.
And what I love about your presentation is it's very clean and easy to understand for the person that doesn't know much about health. A lot of the DNA testing out there and some of the programs make it so difficult to understand that you have to be talking to someone to be able to understand it. And then it might even go over your head in that way too. So what we're going to see is my report, and feel free to pull it up and share it. But it's very laid out in nice, bright colors and easy to understand, and recommendations. I'm blown away by the presentation.
Terrific. So I just shared screen. Can you see it there? Is it showing up? There we go. We've got it. Terrific. Thanks. That's great. So, it's interesting because, it was lovely as we went through this to see how many things correlated with how you've experienced your health over time. And as, we talked about in my interview, I got into this because this is what pointed me in the direction to solve my health problems, which incredibly were supplement based. So I had, years of health issues, hospitalized, blood transfusions, restless leg syndrome, troubles breathing. And here it was in my DNA report. And it turns out I just needed some very good quality supplements. And so what I love is that it does give you the insight. It does point the direction. So let's take a quick look at yours here and see what we can see. So when people get the results, there is a summary report that goes through the 4 different areas, which are diet, fitness, health, and brain. And the main part we focus on is diet. So that's the key part of the report. And in each area, you receive, you get your results in green and red. And where it's green is where you have what we would consider standard or normal genes. And where it's red is where you've got variations. And so where you're 50% red or more, that's where you focus. You don't have to worry quite as much about the other stuff. Of course, we want to be healthy overall, but what we're trying to do is say, where are the areas that I might have some genetic variations that could impact my health, particularly over the long term, and particularly as we age. And so when we look at the first part of the report, it's about your macronutrients, your carbs, fats, and proteins, also a look at insulin, cholesterol, and stored body fats. So when we look at yours is pretty good. The areas that stand out are LDL cholesterol, and that's going to be a real important one we're going to talk about as we go through, dietary saturated fats, and protein need. And so when I look at this, I go, okay, for Sarah, you need to be a bit careful. You've got to be actually careful about the quality of the fats in your diet. You need to have quality food. You should not be on a fast food diet. That will shorten your lifespan. You're one of those people, it actually could shorten your lifespan if you have an unhealthy diet because of some genes we're going to take a look at in LDL cholesterol, which are related to, it's called the ApoE genes, related to amyloid plaquing in the cardiovascular system and in the brain. And so if you are eating foods that where we can't break that down, you're going to be in trouble. So in your case, we're looking at cholesterol, reducing potentially dietary saturated fat, and getting good quality protein on a regular basis throughout the day.
Wonderful. And intuitively, I have known even before I was into health that I loved protein, that I needed to eat more protein, and I felt good on it. And I also am very aware of when I'm eating the wrong foods, I do feel inflammation in my brain.
Right. And interesting, because we're going to see how you have some inflammation markers and where it links into the brain. I just want to point out, though, that those were the 3 areas. And then there are immediately recommendations provided around what you can do to support that. And so we'll see for LDL cholesterol, being careful about the saturated fats that might be in your animal sources of protein. Really, the focus is eliminating trans fats, sugar. Get it out of your diet because it's really going to have a negative impact. Good soluble fiber, exercise is important, whole grains, fish, nuts, seeds, olive oil. So there's examples of what can you do to shift your diet as we go through all of these things. And I know these are many things that you are aware of and you focus on, but just want to point out to people that you get some instruction and direction based on the things that show up for you. So that's the first area of the report. Are you good for us to move to the next section?
Yep.
Lovely. So the next section is on food tolerances, and we look at a number of areas that are common sensitivity areas for people. So in your case, what's showing up is caffeine, lactose, and salt is a big red one for you. And so we mentioned that, and I'll talk to you a little bit about some of the research I was doing last night on that. So you're a person that should have about 50%, in caffeine, 1 cup a day. And then if you're going to have a second cup, it needs to be several hours later because it layers and doesn't break down in your body, and you'll get a bigger impact from any caffeine you have in. Mm-hmm. And I think we talked, you have 1 cup in the morning. Isn't that right?
That's correct.
Perfect. We then look at lactose, and you're 50-50 on this one. And we checked out the genes in the back, and that says, you probably get away with lactose, but you need to be a little bit cautious about how much you include in your diet, because if you have any other issues going on, it has a tendency to create some inflammation and weight gain over time. So we really notice this in people over 40 that they're starting to feel sluggish. And when we see it's about 50% red and lactose, we say, so how much dairy is in your diet? And people will say, oh, well, it's never been a problem. I'm not sensitive. I'm not allergic. Well, you may not be, but your body still may not be breaking it down. It'll depend on the health of your gut. and the quality of the lactose that you're having. And so just be aware that you should be moderate. And I know we talked about that's what you do in your diet.
Yeah.
The next one is salt. And so that one says that if you don't metabolize salt as well, it can lead to some hypertension and some blood pressure issues, potentially some cardio. So what we know is that people with these variations are people that we find it in people who have hypertension and high blood pressure. So when we examine those people, they have those genes. The studies do not at any point differentiate between the incredibly high quality mineralized salt that you have and straight table salt. So through all the studies that I went through, I couldn't see the differentiation. And we know we need trace minerals. Even when I see people red here, I say you still need salt in your diet, but please never use table salt. Only go to the real high quality mineralized salt that you have, Sarah, with your business. So it's not that you can't have it. It's just you need to only keep it at very high quality, and then watch how you're feeling. Are you bloating? Are you feeling any pressure on your kidneys? So just be careful about how much you have. We all need some salt for electrolytes, etc., and for the minerals, but be aware that's one area to watch out for.
And I wanted to touch on that with salt and all of the studies whether you look at the cancer studies from eating red meat or the salt studies, usually the case study is on people who are eating the meat with the carbs, the burger with the bun and the French fries, and it's all loaded with sodium. And yes, it's going to cause heart disease. The wild animal protein or the protein without the carbs is not going to cause the heart disease. And your body does, like you just said, needs all those minerals and needs the really good salt. And all of the fast food, the restaurant salts, the table salts, they're stripped of all of those minerals. So here your body is getting a whole bunch of one of the minerals, and there's like over 60 other minerals that are lacking. And I know that when I used to go out for sushi, all of that salt, I would retain so much water. I couldn't pull my rings off after dinner. But now I put loads of the accelerated ancient salt on my food, and there's no problem. So really, it is a huge difference. But I also know, and I mentioned this to you before, I've always craved a lot of salt. Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting that is one of my red areas, because I've always put a ton of salt on my food. I've loved salty condiments, and now it's making sense.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's funny when you do get your results, you go, oh yeah, or you already knew that, or you figured it out. And I love how there were several areas in your report you already understood about yourself. And we'll see a few more of those coming up. It's interesting because on salt taste, you've got some variations on how you taste salt, and sometimes that can lead to craving it more.
So one thing we didn't talk about, and I wanted to mention, is it says that I metabolize alcohol very well. I want to make it very clear that that does not mean that I could drink plenty of alcohol and not have an addiction to it. This is separate, because I know that I have a very addictive family tree. And a lot of alcoholism, a lot of drug use in my past. So I've always been very careful. So it's funny to see that it's all in green, but those are two separate things, correct?
100%. All it is do you have the gene that metabolizes alcohol and can break it down at a normal rate? So my children are adopted from Vietnam. They don't have that. This is very red. They drink. You can see it in their face. They flush. They'll get sick very easily from it. It just shows that you've got the normal breakdown. But it doesn't mean that even when you drink, if you've got a sluggish liver, you could feel terrible. And I mean, it's just not, it's going to slow down the processing even with that gene. So you're 100%, just because it's green is not your invitation to go drink alcohol, and always be aware of other factors. And interesting, you talked about addiction. The smoking behavior one here at the bottom, that's 50% red. Red is based on a gene that does lead to a compulsive and obsessive behavior, which leads to, if you smoke, you're going to smoke twice as much as anyone else. So I can see that you've got some genes that might have linked into some of these other things you just mentioned.
Right.
Terrific. Okay, well, we're going to move now through. And again, just as mentioned, there will be recommendations for Sarah on that, what she needs to do in that area. And I'm flipping through here. But now just looking at vitamins. So it's lovely that we can take a snapshot because we know we need vitamins. We know our food supply is weak and that we need some support. But is there something in particular that's more important? So, for example, people who are getting sick or have immune issues, I can see that usually they've got real problems with vitamin C and D. You don't. What I do see, though, is that in the Bs, you were a little bit redder. So this is B2, 6, 9, and 12. That says to me that you would be, you would do well on a methylated complex vitamin B, especially for women that are over 45 and anybody that might be under stress or, working very hard. And so these Bs are important. And I think you said you include Bs as part of your supplement regime, correct, Sarah?
Yes, there's a Bio B 100 that people can find on my website and that I take daily as well.
Yeah, I just recommend it usually for anyone under stress or anybody who's basically 45, 50 or over. It's a good thing just because our body doesn't process that quite as well. So really, that's the key area. A little bit on A's and on the A up here. But, really some of that you can get out of a multi if you're doing some of that. It's a little bit less important. Interesting. You have two other genes that are super interesting. You are 50% red on iodine, and you discovered you weren't uptaking that the first time you took iodine, you felt better. And it's really likely that you just didn't have enough in your body to support function. So that made sense to you, didn't it, Sarah?
It did. And before I even supplemented with iodine, I used to eat a ton of kelp and seaweed in my food, and I didn't know why. But it's so interesting how your brain is like, yeah, I want more of that. I want more of that. And it almost creates an addiction or a behavior to get you to do that, to get it what it needs. And go ahead.
No, and I like that you're listening to your body. I think we're so conditioned to some of the cultural norms around food and eating that sometimes we turn off the switch that tells us to really listen to what our body needs, or we revert to comfort food under stress or other things. So you actually already knew you needed some more support here. So that's great to hear.
Right.
Lovely. And then interesting, you've got a couple here that don't show up at the 50%, but they have warnings on them. One is iron overload. And when we check through into the specific genes, there's one gene that does put you at risk of iron overload. So you would not want to have, you would be a person you wouldn't want to have additional iron in your supplements is what I would suggest. And you're close on omega-3. So getting, good quality healthy omega-3 fats, olive oils and things like that are good for you. Your body and your brain wants it. And when we look back at that LDL cholesterol, which has this ApoE gene, it wants good quality omega-3s to support your brain. So these are both, even though they didn't generate a recommendation, you can see, those are ones that are really on your watch list and that you need to be careful for.
And my mom knows that she has to be careful with iron. And for all of you, if you've missed my interview with Morley Robbins, make sure you go back because he talks about how most people are iron overloaded. And the problem is a lack of copper because copper regulates the iron in your body. So that was really interesting. And, my daughter has been anemic all of her life, but I believe it was a lack of copper. And so now she's taking the accelerated copper to help with the iron balance in her body. So it was really interesting to see that as well.
And what I like is that when you find some of this information out, it gives you the key and the clues of where to look. Yeah. So it's I'm anemic. Okay, well, what is it? Is it vitamin Bs? Is it iron? Is it something else? And in fact, in her case, it's looking like maybe it's the copper. So I like that it gives you a place to narrow things down.
Yeah.
Terrific. So again, what we try to do is provide recommendations with as much food recommendations as possible. And of course, supplements is often the easiest way to get there. So I highly recommend it. And again, yours are such high quality, Sarah. So encourage people to be looking at a good regime. And this just helps steer you to which ones are most important for you. Okay, so that's really the overview of the diet results. And again, I think it aligned with what you've learned about your body. We're going to take a look now at some background processes for the body, ones you talk about. So, detoxification, hormone health, inflammation, and methylation, which is again supporting cells. So, in the detox, it's interesting that you've got actually quite good detox genes, with the exception of the methylation process, which is highly related to how your body processes vitamin Bs. Interesting that your B panel was redder in general. And so, what this will say is that really you need to be focusing on high quality sources of vitamin Bs to support this overall methylation for your body, and just to support the B process. So, there actually is several recommendations on methylation here, and there's some here as well. Just giving some foods. Magnesium also helps: spinach, chard, avocado, banana. There's vitamin C rich foods, bell peppers, and lots of things with folate. So the dark leafy greens
So,
and mushrooms
so
and
I
more.
just want to touch on this because so many people, maybe even people that don't have this gene, but because of the GMOs and the glyphosate and all of these endocrine disruptors in our food supply, it is causing an issue with this, with methylation. And glutathione, for instance, is a sulfur-based supplement. People take it for detoxification. People also take DIM, which is full of the cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower and cabbage and those foods. And they think they're healthy and they think they're detoxing. But if you have an issue here, that is going to actually back up your liver and do the opposite. It's going to create wreak havoc on your detox pathways. So you have to be aware of it. And this is so amazing because I knew this about me. Now it's being confirmed from my genes. Now I have to even be more careful because I'm also then the GMOs and the glyphosate and the environmental toxins that I have no control over are hitting my body as well. So you have to go about detoxing in a different way.
Absolutely. And so again, what's good is if you can figure out sometimes even which pathways are most important and which foods can most help, then you can focus on that. But definitely you've got an area where the detox will kind of get stuck and or perhaps work more sluggishly. So again, you now, most people need to do detoxification work because our food is just so toxified. So absolutely, it's a good thing for everybody. Moving into the next one, it's interesting here. You're quite red actually on hormone health, and so this is on your ability to regulate and eliminate estrogens, and some of the other sex hormones. And so we talked briefly about that. Maybe you could speak, Sarah, about how you experienced that.
Well, you had mentioned that this puts me at high risk for PCOS. And I said, well, I had PCOS, and PCOS is also related to insulin resistance. I did have trouble getting pregnant because of the PCOS. My doctor said nothing about dietary change, nothing. And fast forward to after I've had all my kids and don't want to get pregnant anymore, I realized what could cure my PCOS and reduce the sugar in my diet and reduce the insulin resistance. And voila, my cycle was regular and the PCOS symptoms went away. It also helped with the other symptoms from PCOS. So I have experienced this all my life. I now feel like things are more imbalanced because of my diet and supplementation.
Wonderful. And I did mention that what I see is if I've got women who are on birth control and you've got a panel like this, it will really throw your body out. You just don't, you're at much bigger risk of the hormones being out of balance in your body. And so you may want to consider alternative methods of birth control and just be aware it can affect fertility. I have some similar profile to this, plus folate is one of my genetic weaknesses. Now I know really how I maybe could have solved some of my fertility issues.
Yeah.
Terrific. So now looking at inflammation, and you say that sometimes you do feel a bit of inflammation in your body. So this is at 40%. It's not bad. The good news is you actually have very strong tumor fighting genes. So I would expect to see less cancer, but maybe more inflammatory in your family. It's fine, but really when you've got this type of a profile, you want lots of vitamin C, turmeric, garlic, um, uh, any of the vitamin C types of foods. Uh, Natural medicinal mushrooms can be useful. And physical activity helps just keep your immunity up. So that's something just to be aware, is that, again, you don't get away with certain things as well because you might have an inflammatory response.
Right.
Terrific. And then we'll see methylation. This is a bit more detailed panel because I mentioned lots of our naturopaths like this. They like to see all of the different areas broken out in methylation. Yours is actually fairly normal in that you've got kind of this, and it's only one gene in each area. So it can tend to look overly red or green. And you've got kind of what I call a split gene. It's half and half. What it basically just says is you need some methylation support. You need some vitamin B support. You need some good foods of that in your diet. And then that will support the overall methylation process for you, which supports, again, your cells and their health.
Wonderful.
Great. Okay, we're going to now shift into fitness. And, you've been a wonderful, you've been so athletic over all of your life. And it's interesting when I look at the endurance versus power sprint profile, and they're mutually exclusive. Yours are really quite green, which says you probably are a natural athlete in many ways. And I think you've found that, haven't you, Sarah?
Yes, and it was funny when when we first met and talked about this, I thought, gosh, I don't know what I would be, because I like doing both. And I love the strength training. I don't run anymore, but I used to enjoy long runs. So and I love to ski, and I'll ski all day, that type of thing. So I really didn't understand or think that I was going to be one way or the other. So this makes sense.
Yeah, this does actually just validate you're actually good at both. Some of the genes are mutually exclusive. So you actually probably have a stronger fast twitch gene here, which makes that redder on endurance, but you probably have some slow twitch as well, which would then make the power and sprint redder. So that's actually if I look at that, that's an athletic score and profile that I see. And then you're also fortunate that your ligaments, tendons, and muscles and muscle repair are all also really very strong and above normal. And so that should be able to support your ability to be working out. We do look at blood pressure. It's one of those in the warning zone, just to be careful. Part of that is this link into the salt, and just recognizing that you'll want to be sure that it stays all, that you're monitoring that, but it's not, in your case, based on your health, something I would be particularly worried about. Energy metabolism from food is good. Oxygen uptake is good. So that's your VO2 max, how well you have oxygen available when you work out. Great blood sugar and insulin response to exercise. So that means that's a really good area for you to work on. It's a little bit here on stroke risk. I looked at the back. It wasn't a problem. It's still related to that salt gene. There are some other ones related to stroke, which you don't have a problem on. So again, that reduces your risk. And this cardiovascular profile is pretty normal. So in general, on kind of, how you would exercise, whether you're at risk for injury, and, can you do what you need to do? Overall, a great fitness outcome here.
Wonderful.
And then the final one that we're going to take a look at is the brain summary. And this is the one where we've got a flag again, and that's related to Alzheimer's, which is also related to cardiovascular. It's a pair of genes called APOE, and it's related to amyloid plaquing in the brain, or in the cardiovascular system. And it just means the body is more inclined to be plaquing. And you actually just did a post on that, your last blog that you put up. And I was delighted to see that, because you've got such a strong awareness of how important it is to clear those amyloids out of the body, how important sleep can be then to clear it out. And just knowing that, again, really having a clean, healthy diet is important. And when you do, this will never become a risk in your lifetime. So the whole thing is, where you've got weaker genes, just work around them so that you don't have to worry about it. I really could, based on your health profile, this is the risk of Alzheimer's by age 85. Well, if you push it off to age 150, then, who cares?
Right.
So, right. Although we talked about that, I'm into thinking that we can live well over 100 based on really understanding our bodies and working with them.
Me too.
Yeah. So this is a really important one. And just to note, it co-links with concussion. So if you get a concussion, it tends to create this slow recovery if you have these genes. And we talked about the importance of seeking immediate support if something like that happens for you, and being aware of whether your kids are in contact sports. I pulled my kids who have this gene out of contact sports to reduce their risk of concussion. Now, yeah.
What I was going to say about the amyloids, it is becoming more and more important than ever because the spike protein is contributing to the amyloid buildup in the body. So you've got the amyloids from conventional beef, from chicken, from poultry, from pork, and then you've got the amyloids being built up from the spike protein in the body. And it's double whammy. And then what that does is disrupt the gut pathogens, which then can cause food poisoning or the growth of the bad pathogens in the body. And then, of course, the amyloids are getting lodged into your tissues and in your brain. And now more than ever, because of this gene, and I actually told both of my parents, I said, watch out, because they're in their 80s. However, they're doing okay right now still. I mean, they're super excited to get on the Cogniblast so that they can start working on their brain. But this is something that I'm taking very seriously and also talking to my kids about. And thank God, none of my kids wanted to be in contact sports. I have to ask, have they done the studies on the football players with CT? Is it called CTE?
Well, there's the traumatic brain injury, so I don't know. TBI, I'm thinking of, but the leader in this area is Dr. Daniel Amen, and he has been scanning the brains of athletes for considerable time. But you know what's so interesting, Sarah, is you think about how important in concussion it would be to learn, as we're trying to think about how to deal with it, whether people have these genes. It's funny because most of the studies, people do studies on people who have cardiovascular issues or whatever it might be, without actually going back in many cases to find out what were the underlying genes and the commonality, and then what can we do with that. So that's, again, really why you and I do what we do, because we can see that there's so many more ways to connect the dots and put this information out so that you can link it and be aware of what might be happening for you. I don't know if those are in all of those studies, but I just do know that there is better concussion support coming up. And I do know that Dr. Amen does some of the genetics in the brain work as well. And, if you've suffered a concussion and have issues recovering, it's really important to seek help.
Wonderful.
Great. So that kind of covers off most of the areas here. This is just a single gene. I wasn't over fussed on the emotional eating and maybe a hint on cortisol, but the rest all looks great. So that's kind of, the overview of the report. This is the summary report. It's 17 pages. In addition, there are 4 backup reports that you have as well, Sarah. And then there's kind of a page on each item. So, what does this mean around protein weight response, and just gives you a bit more background. So for people who like to dig deeper or to go and look at some of the genes and how those results came out, those are also available. But really the answers that you need are all in the summary. It says, here's your roadmap. Here are the 5 to 10 things you should be doing differently in order to support your body for your life, or that you should be aware of. And I love the fact that you are so into this and in tune with your body already that really you're doing what you needed to support your DNA.
Well, it's just so important to take this information and apply the dietary and lifestyle changes. Then you can heal, and you can actually get away with maybe some of the lactose and maybe some of the alcohol or maybe some of the other things, but really get yourself that baseline of going after the most important things. And the idea is not to feel restricted. I always laugh when people say, oh, Sarah, you're so healthy with what you eat and everything. You're so restricted. Are you kidding me? I absolutely enjoy my ribeye steaks and my bison and my wild salmon and what I eat and what I do. But I also feel 1,000 times better than I did when I hit my rock bottom with health, and I had no energy and I felt bloated all the time and my food wasn't digesting, my hair was falling out, all of these things. And here I was thinking I was eating healthy, but I was doing what what the food pyramid said for you to do, right? And all of those things are not, that does not necessarily go along with health. So Lois, before we go, is there anything, any big takeaways that you want to make sure we leave with the audience?
Well, your health is for life, and we spend too often our wealth gaining our health again in our later years. The thing I love about the DNA testing, you do it once. You do the testing, you've got your roadmap, then you know it's in green or red. You can't kid yourself about whether you've got the lactose genes or you don't. Then you know. When we go through it, we have a nutritionist that goes through the information with you just to help you say, what are your health goals, so that you can follow up on that. And I'm delighted. There's many people from your audience that have already signed up to do this, because clearly they want to know what their roadmap is as well, and it really can help you focus in. And it just means you don't have to do everything as well, because you now know which ones are the most important. So really, this is your roadmap to health. It is your blueprint for your body. It's easy to do. You can do it at any age. It's a wonderful gift. And we're just so delighted to be able to share that with people here.
And what a great idea, a gift for your family. Sometimes we can't get our family members to change their habits, right? Because they won't listen to us. But if they see the report of their own genetics, they can't hide from it. And what a great stocking stuffer. And it's super easy to do when the process of taking the swabs in the saliva, really easy, not a difficult program to do. And like you just saw, everybody, the report is easily read and easily to understand, but you do have the nutritionist that can go through it. And I also am happy to layer on my recommendations after you have met with a nutritionist and gotten your results back. So thank you, Lois. I'm super excited. There's a link below in the description if you're interested, dnaPower. And I really, really encourage you guys to do this. I've done it. It really opened my eyes to some things that confirmed what I already knew about myself, but also some things that I need to be a little more careful with as I go forward. So thank you. And thank you everyone else for joining us today. If I can help you with your health, you can contact me directly through the website, sarahbantahealth.com. And I'm happy to put together a protocol for you. You can join the free group coaching on Telegram with the link below. I teach you on a daily basis with tips and tools to enhance your health. You will be a part of a like-minded group to support you on your journey, in addition to truly taking that control. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram under Accelerated Health Products, and across over 100 channels under Accelerated Health Radio and TV, including YouTube, Stitcher, Pandora, iTunes, whatever podcast platform you subscribe to. And you can join us every Monday at 2 p.m. Pacific time live, and Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Pacific time. And use the coupon WELCOME10 for 10% off site-wide. Thanks again for joining us. And thank you, Lois. Have a great week.
Thank you.